What's up, guys? You're listening to another episode of Selling on Amazon with Andy Isom. How do I get my listings approved when they're asking for photos? This is something that happens to a lot of my students who are getting their products launched, their brand started on Amazon. And let's just dive right into it. So when you go to Amazon Seller Central and you've set up your professional account, you go to create your first listing, you may run into the roadblock where Amazon is requiring you to submit photos showing the product or packaging with the branding clearly visible on the packaging or on the product. And they're getting really smart now, because 2 or 3 years ago, the strategy that we'd use all the time is we would just Photoshop the logo onto the product or the packaging and submit that, and they'd be like, sweet, you're approved. Now they explicitly state Photoshopped images will not be accepted. So like, okay, dang, Amazon is getting smarter. So I want to give you guys kind of the step-by-step process to do this, because again, a lot of students are listening to the podcast, following my course. Shout out to those of you that are members of my programs. You guys are following the course, you're following the system. And again, you might be getting to that point where you're saying, Andy, you teach, get a finalized sample, get a sample, with the product, with the packaging, with the logos, with all that stuff. And sometimes suppliers might not do that. So again, if you're in the situation where, hey, I'm trying to create my listing so I can get my FNSKU barcode to send to the supplier so they can make a final sample, but you can't get the barcode unless the listing is approved. So you're kind of stuck like in this vicious little cycle of not being able to get those barcodes. That's what this really is all coming down to. So in order to generate your FNSKU barcodes, again, you're going to need a product listing that is approved, but you can't get approved until you have the final product with the logos and all that on it. So here is the order to do this. I'm just going to go step by step through this. Prequel to the step by step. We're going to kind of skip over like I'm reaching out to factories, I've ordered a sample. We're going to assume you've done all that. You've ordered a sample, you're happy with it, and you're like, I'm ready to rock and roll with this supplier. Let's get this going. Let's get the listing, barcodes, and order and start selling. Step number 1, place an order with your supplier for the product. Okay, so you send them a message, hey, I would like to order 500 units, 1,000 units, whatever it is. Okay, step 1. Step 2, the supplier makes the product and the packaging. So likely you're making that initial payment. You tell them, I want to place an order for 500 units. They say, okay, great. You make the initial payment, 30% down, They've already got all the logos, all the packaging design. They've got everything they need to make your product, okay? So the supplier starts making the product and the packaging. The product is done, right? The product is ready. It's done. The custom packaging with your logo printed on it, it's all ready to go. Your supplier messages you and says, hey, your product is ready to ship. We just need the final payment, or we just need the barcodes if you are going to put barcodes on them, okay? Great. You tell your supplier, step 3, Air Express ship to me 1 unit. You could say 2 if you want to be paranoid and be safe. 1 or 2, whatever. Ship me 1 unit Air Express in the finalized packaging with the logos. There's going to be no barcodes, right? Your listing is not set up. You don't have any barcodes. It's just the product in the packaging, but it's got the logos and everything on it. Okay, cool. They Air Express ship that to you. It's going to be at your house in probably 5 to 7 days. Step 4, you take the required photos with the 1 unit that they sent you. Again, there's not going to be a barcode on this, but that doesn't matter. But now you don't have to Photoshop the photo. You don't have to edit it. It's literally your product is in your hand. It's got your branding. It's got your logo on it, so you can get your listing approved. Boom. Take a bunch of pictures, different angles, upload it, send it to Amazon. Step 5, your listing gets approved. Great. Now you set up your listing, put in the title, generate your FNSKU barcode, step number 6. You generate your FNSKU barcode, you format it, you put it in Photoshop, you edit it to whatever size of sticker you're going to use for your specific product, and then you send the supplier that document. Likely it'll be a PDF file, again, for what your sticker is going to look like on your product. The supplier applies the barcode sticker, right? They print it in their factory. They apply it to all the units that are sitting there ready to ship. You make the final payment or whatever, ship the remaining units with all the barcodes on it. Get it, quality control, or go to Amazon, whatever strategy you're using, right? And then you're ready to rock and roll. But that's kind of the process. Okay, so that's going to be kind of the process for most of you guys moving forward. If you're in this situation where I need to get my listings approved, Amazon is asking for photos. I got to send them photos of the product with the branding on the product or the packaging. Likely, you won't be able to do this until you have a finalized product. Now, let's talk about maybe some potential risks with doing the model this way, which is again, kind of the way we have to do it now. You do run the risk, your listing potentially not getting approved. And I'm not going to say, and I won't say it's not going to get approved because of like the branding. I have rarely, if ever, seen that as an issue long-term. Now, keep in mind, you may get rejected a few times. So you may submit photos and they reject you. Don't panic. Just do it again. Submit photos again and do it again. It might take, guys, sounds absurd because it is. It might take 5 to 7 submissions before they approve you. Just keep doing it. You just wear them down mentally until they're like, fine, you're approved. Some people get it on the first try, but if they don't on the first try, keep sending it. Another very critical thing, guys, that I should say, I should have said this probably at the beginning. I've said this in other episodes and it's in the course too, I think. Your name needs to match. I've had students who've had issues, people have issues where they set up their brand name as Remy and Rue Co. Let's just use that as an example. Remy and Rue Co. So when they set up their brand in Amazon, brand registry, trademark, it is Remy and Rue Co. That's the word, that's the name they trademark. But when they do their packaging or even print it on the actual product on a tag or whatever, they just put Remy and Rue. You are going to most likely have problems. Your name needs to match. So if you register the brand name Remy and Rue Co., whatever you put on your packaging or your product itself, it needs to say Remy and Rue Co. If it doesn't, the people at Amazon will freak out, tell you that it doesn't match, tell you it's not the same, and you won't get approved. I've seen this happen to people. So be careful with that. Be aware of that when you're doing your branding, when you're doing your packaging design, everything. Make sure the names are identical. Don't be adding other words to the end to try to be cutesy with it. It's got to match up or you're going to have problems, okay? Another thing is, again, the risks here. What if I go and order 500 units of my whatever your product is and you don't get approved to sell that product? And there's various reasons for this. Like, for example, COVID masks. Like back when COVID was a thing and everyone was trying to sell COVID masks, they shut that down. They restricted it. They didn't allow any new sellers to sell masks because a billion people on earth were all trying to sell masks on Amazon. So they just flat out shut it down. So if you ordered 500 or 5,000 and you're like, oh, sweet, I'm going to go set up my listing. And they're like, nope, sorry, can't sell this. Now you're screwed because you ordered 5,000 products. Some ways, again, to mitigate this risk of ordering 500 units, submitting photos, and they're like, you're not approved to sell baby pacifiers or whatever. It's a restricted product, pocket knives, fire, other stuff that has restrictions and whatnot. And they're like, nope, you're not approved. So a few ways to, again, mitigate this risk. Number 1, do your homework. Do your homework on your product. Is it a restricted product? Is it a prohibited product? Make sure you've done your homework to make sure, am I actually allowed to even sell this on Amazon in the first place? Because some stuff you just aren't even allowed to sell on Amazon, period. So make sure you know that. Now, if it is restricted can still be allowed to sell, but there are restrictions, right? So like you need certain testing, you need certain certifications and things. Make sure with your supplier, you have that. So baby is the big one. If you're selling anything in the baby category, there's a lot of certifications, material testing, that kind of stuff that's required. Don't be going placing orders with suppliers that don't have all that. So make sure you do your homework there. Okay. So that's step number 1. Do your homework. Make sure you don't have restrictions. If you do, make sure you have all of those taken care of before you place orders and try to get a listing set up. Number 2, way to mitigate the risk of this. Because again, the risk is like, crap, I ordered 5,000 units and my listing still is not approved. Order a small minimum order quantity. I say this to everyone. It's just the easiest way, guys, to mitigate risk on the front end is to order a smaller quantity. Yeah, it's going to cost you more, most likely. That's fine. It's worth it to spend a couple $1,000 to test a product in the market than to spend $20,000 and have crap happen where you're like, frick, I just lost 20 grand. That's going to be a way harder to recover from than $2,000, of 500 units and crap hits the fan and you got to start over. Okay. That's not the end of the world. Small minimum order quantities. Even if you don't make a ton of profit, guys, don't panic. This business, you're in here for the long haul. Remember that. Play it strategically and be willing to invest in the long haul to grow your brand, right? And minimize risk. Okay. So that's the other thing, MOQs. The third and final thing I'll say, guys, which will really save your buns in this situation where I ordered 500 or 5,000 units and I can't get approved to sell this thing on Amazon. Do not pay in full for your product up front. So the scenario again, for a lot of suppliers, they'll take 30% upfront, 70% upon completion. It's a lot easier to negotiate that if you have a bigger order quantity. So again, it's just kind of a balance of all these pros and cons and risks. But again, the scenario is, let's say it's a $10,000 order. That's how much the order costs for your inventory, whatever it is that you're selling. $10,000 order, you got to pay 30% upfront. Great. You spend $3,000, right? To order whatever, how many units it is. You go through the process, they make it all, they make the packaging, it's done, it's ready to send. And the supplier says, we're not going to ship it until you pay the remaining 70%. Say, okay, will you just send me one so I can get these photos that I need for the product? Most factories won't even bat an eye. They'll say, yeah, absolutely, I'll send it to you. They might make you pay for the air express shipping, big whoop, you pay $50 and right, you get your product. You don't make the final payment until your listing is approved. So if crap hits the fan and your listing is not able to be approved, you're out $3,000. Yeah, that sucks for the factory and it really sucks to tell them that. But hey, can't make the final payment. I'm not allowed to sell this product in the United States, blah, 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 blah. I'm really sorry about that. Have a nice day. Again, that sucks, but in a way, you've kind of protected yourself there. Now, don't freak out. A lot of factories, I know there might be like some dilemmas here on like, because I even struggle with this too, like borderline, like, is that even ethical, right, to do that? But again, this is unforeseen circumstances. It's really out of your control. But in a lot of cases, a lot of these suppliers will find ways to repurpose your product. Heck, you might even see it on Temu or something. I don't know. But this is rare. This is super rare, guys. I don't want you to think like, oh, this is going to happen to me. Super rare that you would even get to this situation. I'd say it's like 1 out of 100. Mainly it's if like you absolutely didn't do your research beforehand, right? But it's not likely, but in a lot of cases, again, especially if you're just putting the branding on the packaging and there's no branding on the actual product, likely they'll just throw out all the packaging and sell your product to someone else. So, you know, if it's a custom proprietary product, there's a little bit of risk there. But again, this is just part of the biz, part of the model. Most of you guys, again, should be fine. This isn't a super common thing that I personally have never seen someone have to actually do that and tell their supplier that. If we're trying to minimize risk, that's what you do. Make sure you don't pay for it in full upfront in case something happens. It's also just good practice, right? For quality control and stuff, have them ship some stuff to you early or do quality inspection from a third party before you're making final payments. Okay, guys. Hopefully this episode kind of helps some of you guys out who are in this situation or getting ready to get your listings approved. That's kind of the process that we're working through with a lot of our students. That's working for them. And that's likely going to be the process moving forward. Guys, we got more episodes, more content, more advice, more tips, more strategies for you guys coming on the way. Once again, I'm Andy. You're listening to Selling on Amazon with Andy Isom. We'll see you in the next episode.